Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, we are very honored and blessed to be having our teacher and friend today, Hoja Efdaluddin Kilic from Istanbul. He's a lecturer at the Marmara University and master calligrapher. Most people will know him through his calligraphy, but those that know him a bit better, he is also an avid and lover of archery as well, mashallah. And so, Hoja Efdaluddin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. Hoja, we have a lot to go through. Many people had sent in so many questions. So I want to do as minimum talking as possible if I can and leave it to you. But I want to cover a number of different things. I'm doing a series of interviews with who I see as key archery people in the traditional world. So I have done a number of interviews with traditional archers, horseback archers, bowyers, etc. Knowing you and having traveled a little bit with yourself, we came to know each other through archery. I know that you are already coming to the UK for calligraphy clinics since, I don't know, maybe the last 10, 15 years or so.
Yes, 1999.
1999, mashallah. So I had heard about you at that time, but I never, had made that connection. I think you were coming to Oxford or Cambridge?
Cambridge, lately.
Cambridge, that's right, Cambridge. I think we only really came together when the Fatua program started, and the first one I was. You had the bad luck to be my roommate, so
it was an honor.
But I had the good fortune to be yours, which was a very memorable time for me. And I think that was a time when you told me that you also are into archery and you know a lot about archery, mashallah. So that was when we really clicked. Hoja, just tell us a little bit about your background. Also, I want to know a little bit about your Hoja, your teacher, Celebi, in terms of calligraphy, and then we will go on to a number of different topics about archery and other things, inshallah.
Inshallah. I'm originally from Kayseri, a city of Turkey. I was born in Istanbul, in Üsküdar, on the Asian side.
İşte Üsküdar.
This is Siri or someone.
Yes, it catches some word in
right.
So I was living in Üsküdar, kind of half a century almost. So I was graduated from a high school, a religious high school in Üsküdar, and then I graduated from theology faculty, Kulliyet İlahiyat. In Marmara University, and I made a master on Yaqut al-Mustasimi's manuscripts on the works that was kept in the special collections and in the palaces, in the libraries of Istanbul, which was attributed to Yaqut al-Mustasimi. He is actually a Turkish origin person, but lived in the late Abbasid period, and he's one of the great calligraphy masters in the history, which gave people a new, which set some new standards, especially on penmanship, on how to carve the pen in a particular way. So then, in 1993, I was given an ijazat, a diploma of calligraphy mastership by my master, Hoja Celebi. So since then, I'm teaching calligraphy on one hand and producing some artworks and teaching in the university on Islamic art and history.
Your teacher, Hoja Celebi, is still alive?
Yeah, he is, yes.
MashaAllah.
He on his health, there are some ups and downs, but he's okay at the moment. He has given to more than 100 people ijazat.
Amazing.
Which is a kind of world record.
Yeah.
So I was one of the very earliest
MashaAllah.
couple of people.
Alhamdulillah, that's good. Okay, let's talk firstly about calligraphy and archery. People are asking, is there a link or some type of connection in Islamic history or just in calligraphy history? What are, if any, what are the connections between calligraphy and archery?
Calligraphy and archery, generally, they are accepted some kind of close by running traditions to skills. But since the time of Prophets, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was advising the parents to teach their children some basic things, which was including the archery as well. So horse riding, archery, calligraphy, a couple of things, and swimming. And when you look at these skills, which were advised by Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to the parents to teach their children, in a time, imagine 1,400 years ago.
Yeah.
These basic things were the things that people needed a lot. With these skills, you would be surviving in the life in the environment. So also, these were something to give people a freedom and self-discipline and confidence. Because when you have some skills, when you have the skills that was valid in your life, in the area that you're living, that keeps you alive, that keeps you strong, that keeps you positively managing things with its psychological side effects. So calligraphy, if you are talking about the Islamic tradition, is of course related to Quran. When the time there was no printing, there was no methods keeping the knowledge much better, any better than calligraphy. Every ayat, every verse coming to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was memorized by some of the Sahaba, but at the same time not to risk of losing those valuable information. They were recorded on different material, but they were also caring about the letters, forms of the letters in an artistic way, in a, how to say, special designing, letter designing way. There were some people among the Sahaba which were picked by Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, especially for writing Quran. So we call them Wahi Katibi, scribes of the divine lettering, divine message.
Revelation,
yeah, there were about 28 people, as you know, namely. But in the time when we were talking about that 28 people, particularly chosen by Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the numbers of people in the Kafir section, in the non-believers in Mecca, when you count their number, they were not more than 20. They say it was 17 people only who were able to...
Who could write.
Yeah, who were able to write. This was the society where most of the information were kept orally by memorizing, by, you know, some legends, some poetry. People were making the information into a poetry, so it was much easier to memorize, much easier to transfer this information from generations. Maybe not securer than a solid lettering, but this was tradition. This was the society that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam were living in. But because of the Quran, because of the importance of keeping the Islamic tradition as revealed to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, the lettering became much more important, and the number of the Muslim people who know reading and writing was doubling the number of non-believers suddenly.
Right. Right.
And from that day on, people put their efforts more and more day by day into writing. And today we are talking about a great art, Islamic art, which was made in 1,400 years.
Yeah.
So if days, with all the professionals and with all the dedication, with all the great sincere efforts, there's no any other such great art.
Yeah.
And I'm very much honored to be part of it, not only because of having the title of artist, but because of the servant of word of Allah. So it's very, very important for my sake, for my understanding.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be missing.
Yeah, and you know, we've told you this before, but we also appreciate all the time and effort you have put into this, and you know, wherever you have gone, whether it's the UK or on the Fatul program, everyone is always they really enjoy the calligraphy sometimes the most out of all of the other activities, mashallah, and it's easy to see why, alhamdulillah. Okay, we go back into history a little bit. Sheikh Hamidullah. Someone asked me he has some connection with calligraphy and archery. Do you know anything about this?
Today there is that Okçular Tekkesi in Ok Meydanı, which is a place. Okçular Vakfı. Today it was all occupied by many of the buildings by the people who in the last century came to Istanbul from villages. They out of control made their own houses, and as we can see from the pictures from last century, it was a vast empty land full of pillars of the record keepers.
Yeah.
The Fatih Sultan Mehmed II of Ottomans, who came and conquered Istanbul city, was a very strange, very skillful young person. And he established some very interesting things for the future of Muslim Ummah. So he realized that the importance of calligraphy, not only because of the Prophet's advice, but also it was needed in a time when all the conflicts between Crusaders and Muslim mode and capturing a state on your side anyway. He saved that vast land as a waqf, not to be sold, not to be used for any other purposes. So this place was kept by the archers. So Sheikh Hamidullah is one of the great archers of the time, as we see on one of the pillars that he erected after keeping his kind of record. So that stone is was found and is being kept in the entrance of the Okçular Tekkesi today. So he is an archer, but at the same time he is one of the great calligraphy artists in the 15th century. So in the Ottoman era, when we came to Bayezid II, he was living in Amasya, and he was benefiting from that Sheikh Hamidullah from the point of calligraphy and some other skills, some other adab, adab. Because when you are connected to a sheikh, you are not only adopting the skills from him, also you are sharing the time, you are sharing the ways and
lifestyle. Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, and you are adopting and you are changing. And all these changes was happening when the throne was emptied all of a sudden, and he came to Istanbul as a new ruler. So when he was there, in a very short time, he called his sheikh to Istanbul, to give his service, to share his knowledge and skills with the people in Istanbul. But this caused some gossips as well. And some people said, okay, what kind of student that even he's a sultan, he is just calling his teacher to his food.
Yeah.
And he has to
go to the teacher
and go to the teacher.
Yeah.
But when these gossips reached to Shaykh Hamidullah, he said, okay, if I am the teacher, it must be my shortage of not giving enough training, proper training. So I should go and complete my teaching. But just kind of joke.
Yeah.
Also. But he came to Istanbul, and Bayezid II gave him an honorable duty of creating a new style, a new method to represent the Ottoman way. Because every dynasty, every nation, every Muslim identity or country, if you want to call it, state maybe, had their own styles, depending on their nature, depending on their climate, depending on their available tools and things. They have some different tastes. They are all in the same shelter of same umbrella of Islamic culture, Islamic civilization, but they all have different tastes and different colors. So Bayezid II would be much pleased if Shaykh Hamidullah could bring some new methods. Then, as intended, he kept himself 40 days isolated. We call it Arba'in, and 14 days.
Yeah, Arba'in, 40.
So you keep all your patients, like the Corona days we are doing here. Everyone is just in houses. So we said goodbye to all these crowded iftars with the friends, Taraweehs and everything. We found ourselves in another rahmat, in another closeness with our families and parents and things. So this is another kind of
Khalwa.
Exactly. So in the first halwa, he couldn't manage to show, to make something and to show Sultan Bayezid II, and he made it twice. So as in one of the anecdotes written in the books, he said Khidr alayhi salam came holding his hand. He showed the letters one by one from Alif. From that time on, with all the intense and cordial efforts, he was able to make a special Ottoman way. So this is the importance from the point of calligraphy. But at the same time, as you said, Shaykh Hamidullah is also known as one of the great archers.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, interesting.
And some people are telling, and advising the calligraphers to keep some archery traditions, if not professionally.
Yeah.
They, in the past, were believing that it would keep their senses intent in a positive way for the sake of calligraphy.
Yeah, mashallah. Interesting. In terms of the letters, someone was asking the alif and the waw. Do these represent the arrow and the bow in any way? Is there any connection there? The alif being straight like an arrow and the waw like a bow. Is there anything to this or not?
These are standing out from all the others, from all the other alphabets. So alif in the Muslim, especially in the Ottoman traditions, have a very special significance. Some people are thinking that it looks more like a sword. It's in Sulus alif, it has some special curve, which you can see in some of the Ottoman swords in its flow and form. But we can definitely connect it with the arrow as well. And it was treated as a unit, as a representative of the beautiful, a beautiful lady, maybe, with its, with her walking with honor and beauty. How to say? And some of the trees in the cemeteries, we call it cedar. I think it's cedar or something. I don't know the English name.
Cedar tree.
It's just like, huh? We call it cedar.
Cedar.
Cedar, yes.
Cedar tree. Yeah.
Isn't it that long thing? Straight up. So, and the gravestones in Istanbul are straight. So some people, some scholars tell that in the Islamic traditions of Istanbul, the letter Elif, the gravestones, and those cedar trees were all representing one thing of Tawheed, oneness of Allah. So archery is not anything away from that same idea. Maybe some people may think it is a Sirat al-Mustaqim, straightness. With intention, it is the way you can go to your goal. There are so many different things. And in one of the miniature paintings, which you remember, there's that kabak shooting.
Yes.
Later in the conversation, if I can find it.
Yeah, I think I have one here. Hold on.
Let's see what you have.
I have this from a competition I was in many years ago in Biga.
Yeah, this one.
This one.
I think this one, yeah. I translated the 4 lines on top some years ago.
MashaAllah.
And it was about the Sultan, I think it was Murad. He was
Yes.
Murad, one of the Murads. He was shooting his arrow to the kabak on the top of the post. And he was so successfully hitting it, as was told in the lines.
Yeah.
All the people were knocking their hands to the ground, which is to say mashallah.
Okay.
You know, I think in Pakistan there's that behavior, special behavior.
Yeah, right.
Touch the wood, touch the ground.
Yes.
They were all saying mashallah, mashallah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, is there any significance with the stand here? Anything like that?
No, I'm not talking about the post. In the text, it was saying that the arrow. I mean the prayers of the audience, like the reaching of arrow to its target, were reaching through the heaven as fast and directly to Allah's court. So the arrow in that miniature painting were mentioned as the prayers reaching Allah.
Reaching the heavens.
Reaching Allah. So the audience people were saying mashallah, and they were praying the Sultan. And all these prayers were reaching to Allah's throne, like the arrows were reaching to their targets.
I see.
Such kind of metaphor.
Yeah, mashallah, beautiful. What is your history with archery? When did you become interested in archery? Did you do any formal training or anything like that?
Yeah, that was all my childhood thing. I remember myself in the street with all the friends playing in those times when there was no computer, no games, no electronic games. We had to invent our own toys, and we had to, create some much environment.
Your own entertainment.
Yeah. So we were dealing with the earth, we were touching the ground, we were in the nature, and we were making our own toys, including arrows and bows.
Yeah.
Some basic things, only to feed ourselves and to enjoy. So after a couple of days, we were bored with that thing, and we were making something else. So days were passing into making other things. So, but later on, when I finished my master on research of Yaqut al-Mustasimi's manuscripts that time, I was left that year with no occupation. I was intending to do some things, but I found myself getting into the internet and whatever available in terms of finding out about, especially Ottoman archery.
Right.
Because my intention was to reconnect the calligraphy traditions with the archery traditions.
Okay.
Remembering Hamidullah, remembering most of the other calligraphers, and especially the Najmuddin Okyay, who also taught my master Hoja Celebi. He was living in Üsküdar. He was an imam in one of the great Ottoman mosques in Üsküdar, and he was very well known. He was a local person. He lived all his life, 75 years maybe, or 80 years in Üsküdar, and he was very popular, very well known person with all the different skills. He was not only a calligrapher, he was into archery, he was into botanic. He was
roses. He was specialist in roses and things.
And modeling paper,
Ebru,
making paper. Ebru, yeah, this is what we call Ebru, and all different things, so many different things. And when you imagine people who are kind of professional in one area today, you may think that Najmuddin Hoja was actually 10, 15 people.
Yeah, amazing person. Amazing.
In one single, he was a Hafiz, he was a, very, in one lifetime, so many different skills, and they were all in the highest level, not only try and fail and do something else. They were all in the highest level of persecution.
Of skill.
And, so my intention was also to explore and to find out what solid informations, connections I could find out between the archery traditions and calligraphy traditions, so I could represent myself as an individual living in this time. So I asked all my teachers, calligraphy teachers, who once met and benefited from Najmuddin Okyay, and they were all saying by the time they were learning calligraphy from Hoja, from the master, he was just given up for that archery tradition. I mean, not performing with the presence of students. But in his house, they were witnessing all the tools and equipment and arrows, bows, some halfway done, completed. But they could not help me transferring any kind of tiny bit of
knowledge
of the time. This was a big miss. But as I said, in the whole summer of that 92, 90 something year, I was in internet and I read pages or pages.
Mhm.
You know, I became the members of so many forums, and Atan is one of them.
Yeah.
Asian traditional or something.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from them. I met so many nice people, and I was also found by them a very unique, original person because of my skill in reading the Turkish, Ottoman, Persian,
Manuscripts. Yeah.
you know, Arabic manuscripts and things. And I was sharing some of the strange information, which was quite strange to them, because some people are only doing it for sport, some people are doing it only for, you know, entertainment, some people doing it for traditional things, and there were some Korean tradition which is great, some other Asian traditions and European traditions, and here we call Ottoman tradition, and we have that Iranian and Japanese. You know, they're all mixed up all together, giving the rich archery, you know,
Landscape.
civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah, landscape. So I was a quite different color there, but for some reason I had to leave that platform, and but I kept my intention, and I had some intentions, serious intentions of making bows, and I collected all the material. And by the time I was doing, there was no person in Turkey, I mean, known and publicly known, I mean, to be dealing with these kind of things. I visited many times Archery Müze, the Museum of Archery in Istanbul, and I was given a short trip in the broken pieces, which would teach you more than the actual finished works.
Yes.
Because you are seeing the inside.
Right. Correct.
And it's you know, thousands of piles of arrows and bows broken, but kept as part of the check and the thing. And they were examined later by some of the friends in Istanbul. And I was quite eager in those days to start or make a kind of exhibition or something, mixing archery and things. But when a couple of friends came up doing these things, I just said, okay, there's no point someone is doing it. I just slowed down, but I'm still doing it. And I'm kind of in the last 10 years time into compound stuff. Yeah. Compound, but I'm enjoying that as well. Yeah. And some people, some traditional people are saying that this is an awkward going.
Change, yeah. Change of direction.
Yeah, change of direction. But I find it still useful because if Ottoman traditions, Ottoman state have not been collapsed, this was probably the thing they would do as well.
Ah, interesting. So you think they would have developed into adopting compound?
Yeah, they definitely would do it because they were one of the greatest army and the civilization that were carrying archery, and they were quite successful. But in the Republican era, we had some difficulties in cultural ways and things with the new lifestyle, new ruling system. Some of the actually very valuable, which later realized, but unfortunately, some of them were neglected a lot, and some of them were even intended to be destroyed. As calligraphy art.
Wow.
So, but when calligraphy was at its peak, at its highest standards, it was hit by the changing of the alphabet.
Yeah.
Right. So we are trying to keep it alive, and today it is just you know, not so bad. It is still quite strong.
Alhamdulillah.
Unfortunately, calligraphy, archery had a quite negative impact, because in the new era, people were more into European style.
Right.
Right. So they lost the old tradition. And
yes,
these days, many young people, including the Okçular Tekkesi, etc., they are trying to reconquer a land by introducing some strange ways of shooting, some doing some strange, you know, movements like that. Because of the lack of people who would transfer in a proper way.
Yes.
So they are trying to regain, they are trying to
revive, maybe.
Revive, but with their own individual, sometimes misled, sometimes making some failures. But those failures in the end teach you as experience.
Yeah, they have. I think they have. Everyone has good intentions. They want to revive it, but because of the lack of knowledge that we have, someone was saying that it's like we have a puzzle, but many pieces are missing. So we're trying to, you know, fill in the gaps the way we think is best. But because we do not have a connection or a chain back to the teachers.
This is very important.
This is what we're missing.
There's a saying, mevtul alimi, mevtul alimi. Yeah, the death of the scholar is the death of the universe.
Allah.
You know, as long as you keep him alive and you honor him and you value him and you get the knowledge and you keep the whole universe alive, you keep the whole universe pending. Because the verses, the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not limited to the verses in the Quran. Exploring the universe, exploring the whole universe, which is actually the ayat, the signs of Allah. It's something all Muslims should be willingly researching and taking hold of it. And these were adopted and carried by the scholars.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those scholars were the people, the artisans, the professionals between the old generation and the young generation. So all that tradition, the knowledge, the skills, they are transferred properly, and they are more likely to develop and improve.
Yes, So in this type of scenario, we would consider maybe someone like Najmuddin Okyay, Allah yarhamu. He would be like, they call him the last Ottoman, or maybe the last person in this chain, because he had teachers and teachers going back a long way, but he was not able to pass on anything to anyone in terms of like official ijazah type of method, you know.
And probably he made, but the people I know from the point of calligraphy were not having that information about reaching these. But one person, I think the father of one of the quite elder artists today, İlhan Amca, İlhan Bey, İlhan Hamidullah. I think his father was kind of into archery and meeting with Najmuddin Okyay, and he kept some of the collections and donated to Archery Museum.
Okay.
So there were some people, but because of the Republican new intentions, they couldn't carry out with the old traditions, old method. They had to leave it. Even if they were into archery in a professional and high skill level, to survive, they had to perform their archery in the modern way.
Yes.
Because all the competitions, all the organizations were made only for what we call European or
Yes.
modern archery.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was the point that we.
Yeah. There are some pictures of the archers in all white clothing, new kind of European clothing. They're still using traditional bows, but their clothing is very different. It's a break from the past.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. It's inshallah, it's like a cycle. Inshallah, it will go around. You know, we have these ups and downs in civilization, and
definitely
every time we gain knowledge, we can lose it. But then somehow Allah sends someone or opens something, and then He can send more knowledge. Inshallah. So
yeah, inshallah.
You know?
So, for example, I am kind of forcing myself, but trying to find out a khair out of that calligraphy. Bad impact in the Republican era. I'm trying to find out a kind of khair. Today, calligraphy art is more important than probably the old days, because people are, even if they are not calligraphers, even if they are, I'm talking about the Turkish citizens, most of them. Even if they could no more read, no more get into the texts, from the point of religious thoughts, they are getting involved with calligraphy art more intensely than before. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it would be just left as it was going, we would be talking maybe much more rich and much more strong, developed calligraphy art. But what happens in the countries that use the Arabic lettering, they are not so much into the value of the letters as a spiritual manner, because it is one of the daily thing that is, with the modernity, is fading away. That's losing its importance from the point of religious things. They are needing some new fonts. They need some new letterings. But we calligraphers, traditional calligraphers, are much more pleased with only 6 styles out of 100, because they were first developed only for writing Quran. Right? We call them shesh kalam or aklam sitte. There are 6 different styles.
Yeah.
Which was made in the past 1,400 years time. Out of that 6, we developed another 6, 7 in the Ottoman era, which were needed for the public records. But because of we had to leave those letters, those couple of fonts became much more traditionally valued and like a classical form.
Yeah. Mashallah.
Today, if you wander around the Muslim sites, but none of them have the same honorable, highest value of those old texts.
I see. I just want to share something here with you. Someone sent me something about Chinese calligraphy and archery. So I just want to open this up here. So I'm going to share my screen and just tell me what you think of this. So here we have, this is the 6 arts formed the basis of education in ancient Chinese culture. So they would want someone who, if you have mastered these 6, then they say you have reached a state of perfection. So number 1 is rites, meaning maybe like adab, procedures and things. Number 2, music. 3, archery. 4, charioteering. I think this is with horses. 5, calligraphy, and 6, mathematics. I believe in Turkish, history, we have something similar when to be an imam, you have to master a number of...
I was going to say, I think Suleymanian Mosque or Sultan Ahmed, one of them, you know, those big Salatin mosques, the mosques that were made or built by the order of great sultans.
Yes.
To be imam there, the qualifications cannot be covered today with any of the people.
Allah. Right.
It's a big position. So people today in our days are kind of into, because of the secularity or whatever understanding, they are intending to underestimate the imams. You know, when you're positioned as an imam, some people are thinking, okay, he's just an imam. But imam is something of a leadership. So that leadership cannot be performed by a couple of unsecure, maybe untrained qualifications.
Yes.
You have to be a compact, full Superman.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So we are not expecting anymore maybe an archery. Maybe let's forget about the horse riding. Maybe not easy, but all that mathematics, music.
Astrology, I think. Astrology.
Yes, exactly. Because the astrology, even today we are talking whether the Ramadan is in or out. You know.
Yes.
Night. Which day? So these are valuable things, and for the Muslim person, every single person is an imam. No.
Right.
Imam is a position. In imamate, to be an imam.
Yes.
Is a position. It's okay. But every individual, Muslim people, have that potential.
Right.
So you have to be perfect. You have to be, just in case, to be prepared, just in case to be an imam.
Yes. Right. And have those skills.
So that imam is something great.
Yeah.
To one who would lead, to one who would stand in the front, to the one who would take people, the crowd.
Yeah.
With full force and power, with the great intention to anywhere. So about astrology and about universe, as I've said, in the ignorance era of the Jahiliyyah of Prophet ﷺ, that time, imagine the people were either slaves or if they are women, unprotected. They were all, had a life which cannot be, durable. If you're a woman, if you're a slave, if you are an orphan, you're nothing.
No. Yeah.
But with the introduction of Muslim traditions, Islamic wahi, people were given the thought of freedom to be complete and to be independent. That's why Prophet ﷺ were teaching or advising the parents to teach calligraphy, to teach archery, and very interestingly to teach swimming. So in the desert, Mecca and Medina, there's not any nearby sea or something.
There's no water in the desert. So how come swimming?
Yeah. But this was a direct, how to say, imposing the Muslim society to be perfect. And this was the good news, the good news of conquering the whole world.
The Bushra. This is like,
So one day, not today, one day, the Muslim community will come to the edge of Arabian Peninsula, and they would be introduced to the sea.
Yeah.
And you have to manage to get across.
You have to be prepared for it.
Yeah. So the universe is something that you should be aware. Some people are living in a very small area, in a small village. They don't care whatever beyond the hills that he can see. But the Muslim identity is Muslim visioning is much more wider and greater. So Prophet's indications, directions, forwarding, and all the verses of Quran, they are encouraging the Muslim people to be individually a leader, and take people to the further away places to find out, to explore the verses of Allah, to take the name of Allah, to take His message,
His word,
everywhere, everywhere.
So on that, sorry to interrupt, on that point, someone wanted to ask about the noble companion Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. Obviously, for archery, he is the figurehead. He is the representative for archery. He was the first companion to shoot an arrow in the way of Islam. He is the first companion who the Prophet ﷺ said, "Fidaka ummi wa abi, may my mother and father be ransom for you." He has a very special status. What do you know about his passing away, his burial? Is it correct that he is in China? Is he buried there? Do you know anything about that?
Not to mislead people, I can't say anything, without knowledge. But there are some maqams. For example, for Sayyidina Ali, the graves mentioned. Even in Kazakhstan, I think there's one. And for Abu Darda, there are a couple of places. And for the seven sleepers, Ashabul Kahf, there are some different places. So these are, how to say, some information, some places that we cannot have a reliable knowledge about. But for the sake of keeping people connected with the traditions, there are some maqams. Maybe just once passed from one place, and this place become a maqam. But other than that, so all these maqams, medfans, the graves are important. I won't say anything against it. But the more important than their graveyard is their own value as a individual who performed many good things in his lifetime and became, for example, if we are talking about the Waqqas, Prophet ﷺ is just honoring him by, my mother and father would be for you. So that personality is more important than where he is buried.
His memory is more important.
His memory, as a role model, whatever he did, as a living person. So from that point of saying, in the Ottoman tradition, every skill, every art, whatever, you have to have a sheikh or a peer, we call it.
A peer, yes.
For example, the calligrapher's peer, one of the peers, is Idris, alayhi salam.
Oh,
and
Idris.
Taylor's.
So you said Sayyidina Idris is the peer of the calligraphers, you say?
Calligraphers and the tailors. The cloth making tailor. Because he was mentioned the first man to be making clothes with, cutting and sewing. So in the old Ottoman tailor shops, you would find some calligraphies like any other place. Her sabah besmele ile açılır dükkanımız. Hazreti İdris'tir, pirimiz, sultanımız. Or something depending on the artisan. The calligraphy piece would say, when the owner of the place would open our shop with Besmele, and we pray our peer, so and so. This is a poetic couplet, 2 lines. So if you are a carpenter, there's another peer. If you are shoemaker, there's another one.
Right.
So there were some scenes, there were some mentioned honored people, just to keep their tradition and keep their positive energy on the subject.
Mashallah.
And archers as well that work out.
Mashallah. There is also a personality in history. His name's Hoja Celebi. Hoja Celebi. What can you tell us about this? Someone sent me some story about him recently. I didn't read it all, but it says Hoja Celebi the archer. What can you tell us about him?
If he is an archer, I have not read about his being archer particularly on that sense. But as a wanderer, keeping record of the places that he was wandering, he was providing very valuable, very detailed information about the cities, about the culture, about the people in wherever he goes. There's no wonder if he's an archer at the same time. But what skill level, I don't know. He was a professionally known person or not. But it is quite normal to have that skill if you are a wanderer.
Yeah. For survival, I guess. For survival, maybe. If you're wandering, it's normal to have that skill of archery.
Probably not on his own. Probably with some companions of people. But even then, to learn how to use a weapon is something valuable. Today, people are quite, avoiding to mention any weapon, to mention much. But to know about a weapon is not to kill people.
Right.
Like most of the martial arts, you are learning a martial art not to harm people, not to beat everyone. It is actually teaching you when not to beat, when to avoid the conflicts.
Yeah.
The martial arts.
To prevent, To
prevent, and it teaches you when to stop and when to start. Just let's remember Sayyidina Ali, in one of the battles, he was very successfully defeating all the enemies, all the non-believers when they were in conflict. And one time, when he just dropped one person down, and he was just about to finish him, he just spit on his face. You remember that? Very, very popular.
Famous story,
Famous story. But it's a real life. When we say story, some people may say it's something made up. But it's a real story. And when he was spit on his face by the men, he, with all the fears, was just about to hit. He just very cleverly, very skillfully to miss the blade of the man. So he was saved. The intention of the person was to have a quick finish, by making him angry, and with a strong blow. He wasn't left in the battle area as wounded and waiting his death out of now. So he was just intending to have a quick kill.
Yeah.
But in that milliseconds, that was that skill, that knowledge, that chivalry knowledge was the thing that stopped him. No, he didn't kill him. And he explained when the wounded man asked, "Why didn't you kill me?" He said, "My religion is teaching me so. You were attacking me and I was defending myself. This was the battle area. It was something not personal. Right? But when you spit on my face, this became a personal thing. I didn't, as a Muslim person, I didn't want to kill you because you spit on my face. So this is the thing. So today people are not understanding the value of weapon. The weapons are so strange things. They have that potential of everything.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Right? So you have to be dealing it carefully. You shouldn't be making jokes. You shouldn't be making, abnormal behaviors.
Yeah.
So that information is highly valued. And if that wanderer, Hoja Celebi, is knowing any bit of archery or anything, I just send my salams. Welcome.
MashaAllah. I'll send you something about what they sent me for you to read.
Yeah, it's actually I respect if he's an archer, but if he is not, still I may just say, okay, why not?
Yeah, we can accept him. Alhamdulillah. In the ritual of a student in archery becoming maybe a master or graduating in the Okyay, in the Tekkesi, if they can shoot, for example, 900 ges, the master will witness this, etc., etc. Then they have a ceremony of giving the hand, the kabza ceremony.
Yeah.
Number one, what can you tell us about the ceremony? Number two, is there a similar ceremony in calligraphy when the student becomes to graduate?
Inshallah. So the calligraphy traditions are more living, more based on the tradition, I can say. Because even though there were some hard times for calligraphic traditions, it was kept by the masters in terms of these traditions, transferring these traditions, and it is more secure. And maybe I can say one of the perhaps only traditional art that has thousands of people, a kind of long lineage of teachers to teachers to students, generations to generations connection. This is calligraphy. But as I've said, the archery traditions today need to have some more research, some more, how to say, in the archives, maybe you can find some documents about actual ceremonies, some records of actual ceremonies, how it was performed. Because in many of the different occasions, different ceremonies, there are all the unnecessary information, like how many people were intended, for how many people the sherbets, beverages were prepared.
Right.
All these details.
Yeah.
Then there was some money saved for all these expenses, and which day who would perform what, who would recite Quran, who would do the prayer, who would do so and so in Mevlid or in some other places. So actually we need some official, if ever happened, records of those kabza ceremonies. From the point of real information I was talking about. As I've said, today people are trying to imitate with some, I hear from here, I think it should be like that kind of thing. So there's that famous mentioned Esrar, or the secret. So no one knows it. So, because if we had that lineage, only the master would whisper to the ear of the apprentice if he's just finished that talismanic word. But many of the people just reciting وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى.
Right.
Very welcome. No one can say anything about it, but this is something you can find out. So this is not actually something hidden, or something you can hide.
Right.
Probably that was another thing that that was worth
passed on.
Worth to pass on. No one learned.
Yeah. MashaAllah.
But I've been to one or two that kind of ceremonies. There's an Ottoman prayer, an Ottoman Turkish prayer, mentioning Jibreel and so on. So the Jibreel was mentioned to be giving the kabza. Quite nice. Traditional poetry-like saying.
Yeah.
It was performed, and then one by one, every student was given kabza by the teacher. But as I've said, they are just starting now, so there's a big gap.
Yes.
Let me say a century or 2 centuries maybe of that kind of performance. So we need some. If we are after the reality of things, we need some more research.
Yeah, inshallah, Allah send us an opening or some information, inshallah. Okay, another ayah in the Quran, which is linked with archery, Qaba Qawsayn, in Surah Al-Najm, Qaba Qawsayn. Obviously, many interpretations of this. The Prophet ﷺ came this close to the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Angel Jibreel could not even come to that point. It's just interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he uses, to describe that distance, he uses a bow or two bows. What relevance do you think this has for archery, and what else do you know about this? Is there any relevance in this with calligraphy as well, for example?
If this would help, I can make my own comment. Just
of course.
Just I remember
Sure.
In Rahman Surah Al-Rahman, there's a verse: "Kullu man alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika zul jalali wal ikram."
No.
Verse. So everything on earth would fade. They are all
Perishing.
Perished, except the face of Allah.
No.
That face, in Ottoman tradition, when you're talking about the beauty of the face, you definitely mention the eyebrows here. And they are treated in the literature, Ottoman Turkic literature, the bow. And what are these eyelashes? The little things. Eyebrow here, the eyelashes are the thin things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh?
they're yeah, the eyelash. Yes, eyelashes. Yes.
Okay, in the Ottoman literature, those eyelashes are the arrows.
Allah, mashallah.
Okay. So the glance of your beloved to your heart. So her look or his look with the ashk is actually throwing you the arrows, which shows his interest or her interest to you. So to be interested with person, that means you are valuing him or her. When you look, for example, in the Hilya, when describing Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was, Sayyidina Ali was describing him as when he was treating people, he would face them with the full body. He was not looking to anybody over shoulder. So that means when you are a fronting person, showing the full facade of yourself, that means you are honoring him, you are giving value. So the value of the whole universe is the face of Allah, the Wajh Ilahi. So the Kaaba saying in Miraj is when Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had reached with the Miraj to the Wajhullah. So I'm making that kind of connection.
Yes, mashallah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand. I had not heard that kind of interpretation before. Yeah.
So Kaaba saying there are so many different explanations as well. So two cows make one circle. You know, Kaaba saying. So this is another kind of comments that it was the complete or completing of things, meeting Allah with the beloved Prophet.
Okay. Yes, right.
That presence, that kind of thing. So in the Sufic manners, in the from the point of Aqaid, we have to get through all these traditional information and scholars' explanations. I'm not so much into that at the moment. Maybe I can make a research on it. But we need some fresh look rather than, oh, I was remembering that kind of information. But my explanation from the other point is connecting that Rahman Surah with Ilahi and the way the Ottoman literature describes the beautiful face with its eyebrow and eyelashes. And it's very common to have the glance or the look of the beloved, to have a heart wound with the arrows. But this heart wound is not something you are unpleased with.
You're happy with
Fuzuli, I think there's a great poet.
You are happy to be wounded with that that arrow.
Exactly. In one of the poetry, there was a conversation with the wounded man and between the wounded man and the tabib, the doctor, and the patient is talking to doctor, is saying that, oh, you came here for my wounded heart. If you have to make this operation, take my heart away and leave the arrow in its place. You know what I mean?
MashaAllah, yeah. As a memory to not forget that arrow, yeah?
Exactly. And also to be able to give your life for the sake of look of your beloved.
Oh, yes.
So when you are, this the greatest, this will be, inshallah, for all of us if we one day meet in Jannah.
Ameen.
Most important thing, the most valuable, rather than all these women, men, child, whatever. the rivers under passing.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of things, just they're all welcome. I'm not, none of us can be against it.
Yeah.
But the highest valued and promised by Allah thing is showing His face, showing His beauty. Tawajjuh. Wait, to be meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ نَاظِرًا is the verse, I think.
Exactly.
Inshallah. I mean,
so
inshallah.
Archery and waiting and nazra and these kind of things are all some bits and pieces from that great civilization. Unfortunately, in this modern life, we are living in a plastic, concrete, you know, life. We have some clever buildings, but we are missing so many things that may touch our souls, hearts, and keep our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In India, it is, we are living in a fani dunya, and non-eternal station. Our journey is going, we are as a safari. We are
traveler.
We are traveler. But most of the time, we think we are based here, and every other person is just coming by, and we are making our own journey. So we need to have some connections, some spirituality, some something to realize, to have, to digest with our hearts. And if archery is helping, if Quran writing is helping, if muhabbat, sohbet is helping, everything is welcome. We have to appreciate it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay, just a couple of other questions. I like to ask these questions for each of the interviewee, just to see which one they prefer. So, in terms of shooting a bow, do you prefer, if it's traditional bow, a laminate or composite bow?
Today, the laminates are easier to get hold of it. The composites are not, actually they're all composites in a sense, but the traditional composite ones are not available for many of us. They're very expensive, and the people who claim to make those bows are not yet confirmed, are not yet satisfying the users. So there are some lacking things. Especially I'm talking about the Turkish nowadays people, which I know. So I'm not against the lamination. So hornbow or the senior and everything, they are all welcomed. But as I've said, if archery would carry on with the Ottoman traditions, as I said, they would end up with all these pulleys and more stuff. But they would use the modern carbon and other laminations today. 2 centuries ago, the organic plastic, organic available material was that horn, the sinew, and a couple of different woods because of their special characters. But it is good. I'm accepting it to be as a traditionalist. To get hold of what the old people were doing, to see their availability, to see their manageable making of the or using of the material. But I think new materials should be given a chance, like the traditional ways.
Yeah, I mean, we could say that 2 centuries ago, when the Ottomans really took archery to the peak, it's because they were looking at the latest technology, the latest materials. If, as you say, if they had continued now,
yeah,
they will always be looking to the new materials to develop.
Exactly. Today we have many other available materials which are stronger, which are, I'd say, as a material, as a chemically, they are more reliable.
Yeah.
But you have to, the thing we are missing is the intentions, the ways and methods and akhlaq and behaviors, right? So even if we can able to, if you are able to produce all these real Ottoman ways. So we were not shown any ways. The whole big ceremony. Some people think, okay, this is something nonsense. It is useless. But when you compare to their bows and arrows to Ottoman ones, they are not as strong.
Right.
The Credo archery equipment is not as strong.
Yeah.
But they have that adapt. They have that. So today, what will happen if we can get hold of all the material and we are able to produce exactly the same bows and arrows? So without the knowledge, without the connection, without the akhlaq or whatever, I can't just find the correct words maybe. There would be something missing. But all together, this is the reason actually, I'm not against the laminated or whatever thing, as long as they have the same qualities and same behavior, technically, physically, they have to behave like Ottoman. The rest is your intention, your skill, and your connection with the tradition, and just treat it as a significant tool rather than a toy, rather than a sport equipment. It's not so simple. It is dangerous. You are actually playing with a weapon. So this is the most important thing, rather than being the champion, rather than being a longest distance shooter. It doesn't make you any better, any valuable. He drop his arrow a couple of meters away. The intention is more important in my understanding.
Yeah. On that same note, do you prefer to shoot wood arrows or carbon arrows?
With the traditional ones, definitely wooden ones. I have a couple of bamboo ones, but I find them a bit. Maybe I just couldn't get hold of the good quality ones. Because when you are shooting, let's say 12 arrows, they have to behave similarly. All the spine and everything should be arranged, the length and everything. And they have to be correct to your bow.
Yeah.
So in that sense, carbon arrows are much reliable in their performance. But I keep my carbon arrows for the Pole one. Compound one.
I recently bought a compound bow, my first one.
What did you buy?
I thought I should have had one a long time ago, but you know, sometimes they're so expensive. I think it's called Bowtech. It's an old.
Yeah, Bowtech. Not a Bowtech is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's old model, maybe 10 years, but I just needed to buy one to experiment with it and try it out and see. So it's interesting. Yeah, I had to buy a release aid as well.
Release aid.
Yeah. So I couldn't pull it with the fingers. I had to buy a release aid, and I had to buy a release aid. But yes,
and for the focus.
Yeah, exactly. It had to has a scope and everything, so it's different. But for me, I think, you know, in my early years of archery, I was very maybe narrow-minded, you know, thinking you know, only traditional, and this is only if you do traditional, this is the sunnah, etc. No one else is doing the sunnah. But as you develop, you understand that whatever the person shoots, like you say, whatever their intention is, if their intention is to come to do archery for reviving it as a sunnah, they could pick up anything. You know, it doesn't necessarily matter about the means. It's more about, like you said, the intention.
I have Matthews Z7.
Matthews, very good make. Yeah.
I'm very happy with it. And I had some 12 years experience with the compound. I really enjoyed it.
Really, mashallah, interesting. I was speaking to someone, one of the interviews, and it was a brother from Australia. In fact, he started compound. He was doing compound in Australia, and then he suddenly changed and he went to more traditional. But he said he still, you know, he enjoys the compound, but now for him his passion is the traditional. But I think we need to be more inclusive rather than exclusive, you know, to allow more people in rather than saying no, only we are doing the right thing and you are wrong. You know?
Yeah. This is the point, and we have to adopt this behavior, you know, all aspects of our life, because there's some points that we have to connect with whatever we exclude ourselves from. So, you know, the edges, where we are in the edges. So it is better to create some good connections and get into other things. So if you are limited, you are actually limiting yourself.
Yeah.
But the archery is beyond that. The archery is something even vaster.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, last question. It's a bit of a theoretical question we're asking everyone. If you had the chance to go back in time, which period of history would you, which interests you the most, or would you like to live in?
I don't know. A quick answer is Prophet's time.
Yeah, of course, obvious answer.
Yeah, but
let's say, for example, in terms of calligraphy period or archery period, which one in times of calligraphy, which is your favorite time? Would you go back to? And in an archery period, which time would you go back to?
Still, that period, the Sahabi period has the same thing, but maybe Seljuk times, when the Crusaders were confronted. You know, you need all that skills, and you need to stand as a knight, you know, as a member of a futuwe, you know, the feta.
Yes.
You know,
Faris.
And in that period, there's that muhakkak style, calligraphic style. I like quite a lot. So, Seljuk era.
Yeah.
Because the calligraphy has a character there. In its appearance, the calligraphic appearance, you can see an army. with all the ellipses, even longer than any of the other calligraphic styles.
Mashallah, yeah.
And the extensions of letters to the west, even longer than other things, representing kind of swords.
Mashallah.
And there's a stance and there's a comparing movement of that particular style and medieval period.
And at the same time, in the archery world, they are also, you know, in warfare, they are also fighting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Hoja Efdaluddin is
but it's not for the sake of fighting.
Yes, sorry, no, go on.
Huh? No, we are not longing for fighting.
No, of course.
So these are the situations, these are the times when you have to stand, you have to keep your ground. But this only may happen if you have the imam character, if you have the leadership potential. If you are a kind of coward, nowhere is good place for you.
No, of course.
But if you are a strong person, if you have a strong character and well qualified, anywhere is your place. So that keeps you alive, that keeps you strong and ready for new developments. But if you are happy with whatever you have, there's no point in research, there's no point in making things better. There's no longing for it. But if you are living in the edge, if you are living with all the potential, this is where the mankind starts for exploring and
to flourish
in every other way. So these periods where great changes were happening, I think must be more enjoyable places.
For sure. Alhamdulillah. Hoja, thank you for your time. We appreciate your time.
Happy as well.
It was a pleasure to see you again. Unfortunately, I don't think there will be a Futur program this year.
Yeah, we'll be missing that one.
I was looking forward to it, but Qadr of Allah, it's not meant to be. But inshallah, the following year we have one. And
I actually carried on with the horse riding. I even fell off. I had that experience as well.
Mabruk.
Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah, I was saved.
Alhamdulillah. As long as you don't have injury, inshallah, then they say you must fall off many times to become a rider.
Yeah, I broke that bone here.
Really?
It's okay, it's just recovered.
But alhamdulillah, it's not your calligraphy hand.
But I also discovered that calligraphy is not done with the right hand.
Really?
It is everywhere.
Allah.
It's everywhere.
Yes.
Every single part of yourself.
True. Correct. Yeah. The whole being has to be involved.
Yeah, the whole being.
MashaAllah. Hoja, may Allah bless your Ramadan, inshallah. Make things easy for you, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, it's our pleasure. We make dua for the ummah. Allah, lift the issues of the ummah, inshallah. Make things easy for the Muslims. And we hope to be in contact with you very soon. We don't know where or what time, but
inshallah,
we pray that we can take the good thing from this period, this strange time we're in, and we can come out with positivity, inshallah.
Inshallah. Many salams to everyone, every friends over there.
Yes. They will get the video very soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Hoja. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.